Every ranked game you play is broken down into 3 different parts: Offspawn, Midgame, and Endgame. And today, as one of the top ranked players in NA, I'm going to show all of you how to dominate every fight in every single one of these scenarios and win games consistently. So if you guys do enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe, go follow my TikTok, check out my Twitch. I'll start streaming on there once I hit 100 followers. But now onto the first part of this video, fighting Offspawn. Now first off, when fighting Offspawn, the players you're going to fight are going to have limited mats, and that means they're more likely to make bad edits that you can counter on. So in this fight, for example, right here, I see this player boxed up in the building, and then I'm going to shoot him when he's trying to break the wall, and he's going to run away from me. When I chase this player down, I hear the visuals below me, so I know he's probably a box below me. I'm then going to place a cone and then try and steal the floor. When I try and steal the floor, he steals it, so I try and pre-fire him, but he holds the floor again, so I place a wall, and then I'm going to give myself a right-hand peek with a mammoth pistol, and then I'm going to use it as a double pump to crack the player. When I crack the player, at this point, he's weak, but he's also nervous because I'm starting to be super aggressive. When I drop onto his wall though, pay attention to how I don't jump into this box right here. I keep my distance and I just pull out my pump, because I know this player is probably flustered and he's going to make a bad edit. And when he does, you'll notice that right now I can completely see him. He's exposed. He didn't do the peanut butter edit properly. And that means I'm able to pump the player and then pick up a simple elimination. So make sure to do things like this when fighting Offspawn. Now, if you do want to become a god at fighting, you do need to learn how to piece control in ranked. Learning how to piece control is the best way to do damage while not taking damage at the same time. So in this next example right here, I see this player below me and I'm going to drop on him, miss my shot because I'm garbage, but then I'm able to get a big hit of opening damage. Now when this player runs away, he's going to take high ground, so I'm going to do a little side jump. That way I can get back up on height with him. And when I get up on height, I'm going to shoot my sticky launcher once to see if I can just pre-fire him. But the player is going to fall onto low ground and he's going to box up in hard mats. When he does this, I get an idea. Pay attention to what I do. I see the player boxed up. I'm going to shoot a sticky launcher to the left to make sure it's not going to damage me if I were to shoot it like right here. Then I'm going to allow the builds to break and then hold out my map and replace them with my own. This will allow me to full box the player. I can then crack him, miss my mammoth because again I'm garbage, but at this point I just ran out of ammo. Really unlucky, right? But when the player walks up to my wall, I'm going to reload one shell and then I'm going to full wide edit because I know I have an insane health advantage right now. I have full 100. This guy barely has anything, and that means I'm able to full piece the player. When he jumps, I cone him to make sure he can't go anywhere, and then I'm able to secure the kill. So make sure when you're fighting Offspawn, you're doing things like this so that you can win more fights. Moving on from Offspawn now, let's talk about fighting in mid-game. Now every fight in mid-game is going to be different, but the most common scenario you're going to get into in mid-game is third parties. And the best way to properly deal with third parties this season is learning how to do counter damage. So let's use this fight for an example right here. I'm chilling on a height on the mountain. I hear a player shooting below me and I want to start to approach him to fight him. But I did notice there was another player on the hill right next to me and he's going to spray me in my back and he's going to damage me a ton. Now when this happens, I know I'm going to have barely any time at all to get any meds off. And while I'm medding, notice how I look at the other player so I can see where he is while he's pushing me. Now when the player does land on my box, I know he's just going to want to jump into my box and I don't have any space right now. And when the player is approaching my box, I need to do counter damage so he'll stop pushing me. So when the player drops onto my box, I'm going to pull out my pump. I'm going to catch the player off guard and crack him. When I crack him, I place a wall in front of me. But when I do this, he can only run out into this space to my right. So I'm going to full box that area so that if he walks in there, I can have him full pieced and then I'm able to pump him and pick up a simple elimination. So make sure when someone hits you for a ton of damage, you're looking for counter damage so that they can't keep pushing you. Moving on now, I want to talk about, in my opinion, the best way to consistently win fights in any time of a ranked game, and that is playing protective peeks. Learning how to keep yourself protected while either piece controlling your opponent or taking shots at your opponent is the best way to consistently win fights in ranked. For example, right here, this player's running away from me after I've gotten a bunch of damage on him, and he's going to box up. Now when he box up, he's going to start to pop his meds, so I move to the left side. I try and mammoth the wall, but I realize it's on too much health. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to block off my back to make sure I don't get third partied. And then I'm going to build out to my left, right where the player is. But I'm not going to fight from this box. I'm going to flip up the cone in front of me and then place a wall and then edit the wall and then set up a perfect peanut butter peek from a right hand peek. This way when the player edits, he now has to reset the wall because he realized he's in a bad position. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to shoot the wall, steal it, and then as I'm falling, I'm going to wide edit. What this means is that from my POV, I can see the player completely. But from the other player's POV, you can clearly see I'm behind the wall and protected. And that means all I have to do is do a little simple jump, pump the player, and pick up a simple elimination. So make sure you're playing from protective peaks so that you don't take any damage while doing damage. Moving on now, let's talk about the biggest reason that you're dying in mid-game fights, and that is going into 50-50s when you don't need to. A lot of players will jump into a box when they don't need to, and they'll end up dying for it. A way to avoid this would be in this example right here. I see this player in this bush, I'm able to aimbot him, and I'm able to get a headshot dink. When I do this, I'm then going to start to push the player. When I push him, I know he's super weak on HP, and I want to avoid taking a 50-50 because that's the only chance this player has to win this fight. So when I go up to his wall, I swing, steal it, and I try and shoot him. When I realize where this player's boxed up, I know he's probably going to try and move out into this area right here. So I try and double it at that area and full box it. But notice how I'm not going to drop into this box on his wall. If I drop onto his wall, he could edit and get some counter damage, and then I won't be able to push him anymore. So instead, I'm going to stay elevated and wait for the player to edit. This way I can get some damage off without exposing myself, and I'm able to pump the player and pick up a simple kill. So make sure to not 50-50 in mid-game to avoid dying. Another thing about fighting in mid-game is you need to have really good awareness so you can make the right decisions on the fly. Like this fight, for example, this player's running away from me, but he's not doing it properly. He's exposed and I'm able to crack him. At this point, he's pretty weak. I'm chasing him down with my bat, but at the perfect time, he shockwaves away and I'm not able to hit him. When he flies away, I'm going to pull out my bat and I'm going to start to approach his box. But when I'm approaching his box, he's going to throw down a med miss, but I notice there's no floor and cone above him. So instead of running up to his wall, I'm going to jump, and I know this player can't see me right now because obviously the smoke's in his face. So I'm going to jump over him and then full piece him and then drop into his box. And I'm able to pump him and pick up a simple elimination. So make sure when you're fighting, you're having awareness of what your opponent is doing so you can make good decisions. Moving on from mid-game, let's move on to the final and most important part of this video, endgame, and how you guys can become a better fighter and ultimately win more games in ranked. Now, winning ranked games consistently is all about picking the right rotations and the right areas to go into. For example, right now, I'm on the edge of zone, we got one player there, and then we have the rest of the lobby to my left. Now, right now, zone's pulling all the way back here. Now, I could white line directly through the middle, but there's a chance that everyone looking on this side and this side could lobby focus me. So the best option is to go past this player or wait for him to rotate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run past this player and almost cut him off. Notice how now I'm in front of him and now he's forced to stay at the back of zone. Now the reason that I do this is because this player is going to get caught at the back of zone, and you're going to notice he's going to make a bad decision on the fly because he doesn't have time to think. He's going to pull out his rocket drill and he's just going to start flying in the air. I'm able to then just mammoth him in the air and get him super weak. And me forcing that player to go to the right side of zone has now opened up the entire right side. So instead of staying back here and fighting this player and getting griefed, I'm just going to run to the front of zone. This way I get in a better position than the rest of the lobby, and that means I'm able to easily win this game just because I did so. So make sure you're doing things like this if you want to consistently come out on top in fights, but also win ranked games consistently. Moving on now, I want to talk about one of the best ways to secure kills and actually just end up winning ranked games, and that is building at an angle. For example, this is me on high ground right now, and there's 3 other players below me. There's 2 people here, and there's 1 more player over in the corner of the map. Now, right now, as you can see, zone is pulling all the way over here. So I don't want to build out in front of these players, because imagine if I do, I'll have a blind spot. But if I build out and go at an angle, notice how I'm just ramping up in the air because I know if I fall, I can just land in the water. But this also means I have an angle. See how I built out to the side and now I can look back at these people? This gives me a perfect angle, and it also means that I've gotten to the front of zone before anyone else. All these players now have to move, and I can just pick up free damage and pick up free kills. Now, after I do get in this good position, another player below me is going to start to push up to me with the new rocket drill. Now, when he does this, this is a key moment in the game. You need to learn how to give up on fights and not invest too many mats. Because right now, look at where we are, right? We're on the edge of zone, and zone's pulling all the way back here. If I let this player get to the front of zone, get in a good position, and we build up to max height, we're both dead. So I'm going to realize this fight isn't worth it, pull out my bat and jump off and spray the player while I'm falling to make sure he can't shoot me. Now let's talk about the final piece of endgame, and that is a final 1v1 with the last 2 people alive. Now when you're in this situation, it's very important to apply pressure to make sure the other player isn't comfortable. When I drop onto his wall, notice how I'm again going to build at an angle and get to the front so that I can hold this player from an angle. When I see him build up, I'm going to shoot my mammoth and then pump him and get a little bit of damage. I then block off this angle and then block off the right side, because now this is the only way the player can go. I've now set up a double edit and I can crack him, and he's super weak at this point, and now the game is basically over. All I have to do is just cut him off, apply some pressure, and I'm able to pick up a simple win. Now that is going to wrap up this video, so if you guys did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. Go follow my TikTok, go follow my Twitch, And if you want to see my full fighting guide, go check this video out. But with that, I'm out. Peace.